familiar with social media person, whether it's a part-time position or whatever it is. But have that person kicking this information out there all the time. It is definitely something that's needed, because you don't find it all on Facebook. And what you do find might not be what you want.
Okay. Any more questions for the select board candidates?
Hi, I'm Lee Robertor, resident of Acton, and my question to the candidates is, as a Board of Selectmen, it's your duty to oversee the operation of the town, and I would like to have each of you address where you see improvements could be made in the process of running the town on an annual basis. An annual basis is getting through the budget process and getting it approved through a town meeting, and then the execution of the budget. So that's the cycle you go through. What are the hurdles that you see out there that are preventing it to be handled in a efficient way, and what recommendations would you have to improve the process itself? Thank you.
Thank you. Ed, you're up.
As far as handling the budget process, like I had said earlier, a much more meaning relationship between the Board of Selectmen and the Warrant and Finance Committee, working tighter and closer together to get things processed through, working with the department heads, getting the information in, and going through all the numbers and whatnot, and making it a budget that is very workable. As far as processing it the rest of the way through, I have not been an advocate for the open town meeting. I'll say it here and now. It's a great way to do it. It's a great way to meet your neighbors and whatnot. But 35 to 40 people voting on a multi-million-dollar budget. I'm hoping this year changes. I don't have great hopes, I'm sorry to say, but I would like to see that change. But I think open ballot, doing a ballot is the better way to go. I know we looked at this in the past, and that the town voted it down. They prefer to do it open town meeting. But I think it's something we still need to keep in the back of our mind and keep looking at. You get 400 people coming in and 400 to 500 people voting on a budget rather than 35 or 40. And getting that, going back to the IT side of things, getting that information out to the public so everybody knows what we're voting on and the dollar amounts and whatnot.
Thank you. Daniel?
In regards to the budgeting process, I am somebody who likes to plan things out in advance and then anticipate delays or anything that might go wrong. I think when it comes to budgeting, there should be a calendar, a simple, this is the way it goes every single year, so it doesn't come up unsurprised, so that each committee and department head knows that by these certain dates, they have to have the expected numbers and information, and then if for some reason there's delay, that is built into that schedule. Having a solid plan that is consistent every year, allows people to be prepared, it allows for that clear communication. In regards to the town meeting, I know that obviously the voice of the voters is the most important thing. I do think we need more engagement. I know that in the past at select board meetings, there has been discussion about having a hybrid town meeting ballot option. I know that some towns that we look at that do everything by ballot, there's a lot of ordinances on there which can be overwhelming for people. I think the hybrid option was something that a lot of people in town seem pretty positive about. I think it's important to have discussions with you, the folks, and say, what would work best for you? I know some of you really like town meeting and some of you really like the idea of ballots. Coming with a compromise that works for everyone, if things only reach a certain amount, then we can put them on ballot, but if they're over a certain amount, we have that in-person discussion at town meeting. Something like that. The most important thing is what works for you, and us listening and taking those ideas and coming up with a good plan that benefits most, if not everyone.
Thank you. Phil?
One of the articles for the town meeting on June 10th is a great idea to start the ball rolling and probably have a domino effect in improving things. And that's what Tom and the current select board have requesting funds for, to bring in a third party to clean up, as it were, or get us a good baseline to start keeping this budget and getting the budgeting, having a good baseline so we can move forward and instead of us trying to piecemeal this thing. So to me, what they're doing right now with requesting funds in that article to bring in a third party, and that's their profession, that will apply and get us a good baseline for budgeting in the future. To me, that's the core of stuff. That's never been done to my knowledge. So that's a core effort to address a lot of the issues, because a lot of the issues do come off of money. That's a fact, right? I mean, that's what a lot of what we're doing is talking about here, is communications and what we do with the funds that we collect in taxes. There's a lot of things that are very unclear when it comes to budgeting, and having a third party will definitely resolve some of that, so I think that's a good idea. Real quickly, on the last point, I thought of something. If we started, or when we start resolving these long-term issues, and I'm still working on your question, Nate, maybe that will bring people and get them more involved when they see things being solved. I think it will. So, that's it, sir.
Thank you.
I have one more question.
That's what we're here for.
Joyce Bakshi. I also chair the Capital Improvement Committee, and I'm going to throw a hypothetical out to the three of you. We had an assessment done of the building. Didn't turn out the way we thought it was, but it's a learning curve for us. But one of the things my committee has come up with, and I heard one of you, and I'm sorry I don't remember, may have been Daniel or Ed, I'm not sure, talk about ad hoc committees. What we thought would be a good idea was when something comes forward and you have to send out an RFP, or a request, for a bid, you're trying to find companies, is to have a committee in the town. My committee was thinking, well, if we need to do something for this building, and I want to know if you would do something like this, we would like to have a separate committee that would report to us, a subcommittee. We'd like an architect. We'd like an interior designer who does office buildings. We would like a horticulturalist who could make this place look alive and beautiful, and yet keeping its old charm. And we know we have people in this community that could do it. And I think, kind of bouncing off Mrs. Caruso's thing, if we got more people to come in to handle these one-job committees at a time, this is the project, we want your input before capital improvement goes to the selectmen and says, we'd like to spend $150 doing, or $150,000 doing this, and this, because we have the input from these specialists. I mean, we have a fellow at the transfer station who's practically a world-renowned horticulturalist. We have one sitting in the audience who is a renowned horticulturalist. We have another person in the audience who is a civil engineer, well-respected from the big city yet, not just a small town person, but with great knowledge. If we can bring these people in on that level, maybe then we can get other people to come in. And when we have a town meeting, it's going to be standing room only. Would you be willing to say, okay, Committee X, do that. Get your committee going, and let the committee have the authority to get their committees going. Would you be willing to open up the doors to let that happen?
Daniel?
Yeah, I was the one who brought up the idea of an ad hoc committee. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of Kiwanis International, but I served as district governor, and I oversaw the membership for the entire New England district. And one thing that we did, we had standing committees, like we currently do, but things change, and we would ad hoc committees to areas that we thought were going to be up-and-coming areas of concern. They're a great opportunity to see the work that people can do, and if they are really efficient and work well, then you can make them a permanent standing committee. I think that having a committee which gets expertise, one, people are passionate about different things, and some people are only going to engage things that they're really passionate about, whether it is like childhood cancer awareness, domestic violence, agriculture, architecture. So having other options for people to be engaged, you might get people like, oh, that's something that I'm an expert, or something I'm really passionate about, an area that I think is important. It might get those voices involved and engaged in the town in a different way. So I think it's a great way to also help continue to assist the town that's growing and adapt to the needs of the town. So I would be very open to having a committee such as an ad hoc committee.
Phil?
Having a lot of project management experience and doing RFPs for various places, an ad hoc committee's a great idea, but when you mentioned the assessment, if your scope of work that goes out with that request for proposal is not very specific and something you can hold, and when you get that proposal back that you're requesting, it's got to be based directly on that scope of work, word for word almost, because that's what you're going to be paying for in the future. If you request an assessment on this building and it's a verbal thing, you're not going to get a lot out of it, because you have to be specific on what you want that assessment to tell you, which goes back to what are your priorities. Okay, but you need to set that with the vendor by having a scope of work that dictates how they're going to reply to that proposal request. Then having an ad hoc, if someone in that ad hoc committee is capable of doing that, which I'm sure there are people here, that has to be done first or in conjunction, or else you're not going to get anywhere. The contractor's going to basically do what they do, which we had an assessment done here that really didn't tell us a lot, and didn't tell us what we really wanted to know, but we didn't really tell them what we wanted to know either. So that's where it has to come from. So you could use those committees when the time is right, yes.
All right, Edward? Ed?
Thanks. Breaking it down, you take the committee that Joyce is on now, they've got some specific things that they'd like to know. They've got to take that information, get it on paper, or give it to another committee. I honestly think the committee that she's on could do that work and go to the people, the different people that she knows or that committee members know, and try to bring those folks in, as opposed to having yet another committee to report to a committee, to report to the board. Once again, to streamline it a little bit, I think if the committee can specifically reach out to the different people, the different, whether it's a painting contractor, whether it's a paving, whether it's horticulture. I do know there's some great horticulture people in town. Roger is the one she's speaking of, I believe, and have a little conversation with him someday when you go to the transfer station. Very interesting person, but not one that's going to come in and sit on a committee, but a wealth of knowledge. One-on-one, the committee could grab him and bring him in and have a discussion, as opposed to yet another committee. I just don't like to see things getting watered down too much. I think you could bring that person in and, whatever part you're looking at, and do it more that way.
Again, every time something's said, I think of something. Committees are great, but they have to have the authority to act, some sort of budget, so they can actually move independently, and they don't have to keep doing baby steps. And I'm sort of guarded in what I'm going to say, but this is almost what we have for a town meeting, so I'm pretty impressed, but disappointed. Disappointed in that we don't have more people here, but impressed that there's at least this number of people that come to discuss this. On something that was said earlier regarding form of government that we have, town meeting form of government probably goes back a long way. Roman times are better. It is the purest form of democracy that there is. And so I want to know whether you really want to see town form of government continue, because this is when people have an opportunity to actually say something and maybe spur a question in someone else's mind. Whereas if you're just tossing a ballot or hanging chads or whatever sort of form of voting you want to do, if you're just doing that, there's no interplay between the public, and there's no sharing of ideas or thoughts or questions. So my question is, do you really believe in a true form of government, true democracy, which is what town government is? We do live in a republic, a representative republic, but the United States is a republic.
All right, Phil, you're up.
Well, I've said this earlier already. Thank you, Charlie. I pointed out how unique we have, and because it's so democratic, where the legislature, being the townspeople, actually elect the executors that are going to enforce the laws that you folks decide need to be passed. So I think this is, I've never been anywhere where they have this. I know it's more New England, but as I've stated before, this is great, and that's why I pointed out participation is absolutely necessary, as I referred to the school budget a few times. And again, I pointed out, maybe if we start resolving some long-term issues, people will get more interested because they'll feel things are happening. And me sitting here listening to potential employers is very beneficial, just like being on warrant and finance. When I listen to Dennis or anyone else, the history I've learned in the 2 years about this town and long-standing issues or things that work well and things that don't, is why I'm sitting here. It's been a great history lesson.
Okay, Daniel?
As somebody who from a very young age has loved the idea of government and who is a huge history nerd, I respect the form of government that a town meeting represents. But it is the purest form of government, but the question is it really the best form of government if people don't show up? There's a reason people don't show up. Tonight, 7 o'clock, when I found the candidates were 7 o'clock, the first thing I thought is, my sister has a niece. She's going to be in school. She cannot make this meeting. We need to meet people where they are at, which is why I recommended some form of hybrid. I want to keep the town meeting where we have this opportunity to engage with you, to have you voice your concerns and face the select people and question us and hold us accountable. But we also need to make sure that every voice possible can be heard. And this has been a problem, not only in our town, but other towns. And look to some of their solutions. You know, like I said, a hybrid. Is there a hearing or an opportunity before a ballot vote? Do we have a certain level, like certain questions up for debate, go to town meeting, go to ballot? That is what we need to work on and find that solution. But if this is the number that we continue to see, we are neglecting the needs of the people who can continually not make these meetings, which is why I think we do need to look into what solutions we can find, which is why I think a compromise, a middle ground would be best, so we can keep town meeting, but also make sure that we are reaching out and ensuring that all voices are heard, not just those that are able to make these meetings. Sometimes we have to make special accommodations to be here. One thing we can also do is put out agendas. Agendas to meetings with telling us like what's going to be discussed is really important. Like if I'm looking at an agenda, say, oh, this is going to be talked about at the selectmen's meeting. This is something that's really important. Hey, honey, can you watch the kids tonight so I can show up to the meeting? That would also be really important, that people have a clear idea what's being talked about at all public forums.
Yeah, I kind of spurred this on a little bit, I guess, when I said that I feel that the ballot vote is the better way to go. Hybrid, I'll have to agree with Daniel. Once again, old school, newer school, coming up with some hybrid way of doing it. Before you go into the booth and put that little check mark, there would be a number of meetings where the townsfolk could come in, discuss with the select board, discuss with the warrant and finance committee, hear the debates and the, breaking it down and how the money is to be spent, and, before you go in and make that little check mark. I know a number of people in town that would love to go to town meeting. They work, or it's their one day off a week with the family. We do need to find a better way.
Let's let them answer their questions.
Some sort of a hybrid way of doing it. I'll play off of it, yes, modern technology. Times have changed. Back in the day, it was the way to go. Nowadays, there's a number of different reasons why there should be a better way, and we could find a better way. The Town of Acton might be a forerunner in this, in trying to come up with a different way of either running a town meeting or, trying to get more people to the town meeting. I think it's a great idea, but I think we've played it out, so we need to have a better way. Thanks.
Okay.
I was kind of disappointed in Charlie when he said he was impressed tonight. I thought he was going to say because Dennis hasn't gone up and spoke yet. But that's Charlie for you. The Warrant Finance Committee, there's been quite a bit of talk about the Warrant Finance Committee and different committees. 4 years ago, when you was a selectman, Ed, the departments were told near the end of the year, when we were finishing up our work, not to come in and meet with the Warrant Finance Committee. The Warrant Finance Committee is elected by the people, and I have said that they're accountable to the people. They're not accountable to the Board of Selectmen or anybody else. This is who we're elected to work for. So my first question is, would you support doing that again? And the other two, would you support doing that in the future? Not allowing the departments to come in and talk to the Warrant Finance Committee so they can make their recommendations.
Ed, you're up first.
Sure, thanks. No, I would not support that again, Dennis. And I've said here tonight several times that the Warrant and Finance Committee, the selectmen need to work better with the Warrant and Finance Committee. And I'm specifically putting it in that order. I'm embarrassed as to some of the ways that it has been handled in the past. There's a lot of good people on the Warrant and Finance Committee, and once again, I think they haven't been heard correctly in the selectmen's side. And no, Dennis, I would not support that again, and I think that it's something that needs to be worked on, and the department heads need to meet with you folks, they need to meet with us. I won't say us, but the selectmen. there needs to be more of a happy ground in there somewhere. So, I mean, you and I have had some discussions about that in the past, and, yeah.
Daniel?
I'm happy that you brought up the elected part. That was something I was going to mention, that you folks are elected by the people of Acton. They put their faith and trust in you. They decided who's going to serve on that committee, and for good reason, because they believe in your skill set and your knowledge. I think that not meeting with departments head would be like saying, here's a job, but without the tools, the resources, any information that you need to get it done, like having all the information redacted, which I think is impossible. So I would never support not meeting with departments head. The priority is to serve the people of Acton to the best of your abilities, and every tool and resource that you have available to you and to that committee to make sure that you can do the best job possible, so we don't run into budgeting issues like the issue that we've been talking about tonight. I think that is important, and I think it's necessary for those meetings to take place.
Phil?
As we pointed out earlier, this is a municipal corporation. And from that standpoint, communications is everything. I've always believed that good communications, especially at work, but personal relationships too, obviously, are the key to everything, and they can keep a lot of problems from ever occurring, in my opinion. So not having interrelated departments communicating with each other makes absolutely no sense, and I've seen it in warrant and finance, because you're sitting there with a piece of paper from that department, but I can't see your body language or question you. I'm reading text, which doesn't supply us with anything when you're trying to do that. Which I found, we've had that discussion. It's very hard to make decisions without the person in front of you, and listening to what they have to say. And we saw some very good presentations when we were doing the budget, but to not have departments come in on a regular basis or whenever needed, especially talking warrant and finance, doesn't achieve anything in a positive way.
The other thing that I've talked about for many years, and the school has done a real good job with this, and so has the fire department with long-term planning. But the rest of the municipal end is really behind the eight ball. And thanks to the expertise of like Tom, he brought out what I've been saying for a long time. We've been overtaxed and we're getting too much money. So my question is, before we move forward, as a selectman, would you try to develop a plan for the rest of the town that's as comprehensive as the schools or the fire departments?
Daniel, you're up.
So I currently work on the Policy and Procedures Committee at Caring Unlimited, and we are currently reviewing our comprehensive plan. And the way that that plan works is that every department in our organization creates their own plan for what they would like to see their departments achieve. And they meet together and make sure that those goals work together in a cohesive, comprehensive plan for the organization, the overall goals. So I think every department should have a plan, because you want to make sure that if you're doing Warren and Finance and Rec and Mary Grant and Cemetery and all these different committees, you want to make sure that their goals are not like fighting or not working together with each other. One of the great things about having so many people and resources is that you can utilize each other's skill and knowledge. So I think it's very essential and vital that each department have a plan, but that those plans also work cohesively together to move the town's comprehensive plan forward, and that those plans continue to be reviewed on, like I said, something like a 5-year basis to make sure that they grow and adapt with the town.
Phil?
As we said earlier, Dennis, about the comprehensive plan, and you pointed out that the school sets a really good example there. What that means that we have something to cut and paste, as it were, or a starting point that works in Acton. So it's very possible to do. It's just something that we need to make happen and make it a priority. Because as you're pointing out, if you don't have a baseline, which is what that plan, that's the whole point of it, right? Whether it's corporation or whatever thing you're talking about, people are just going off in different directions. There's no continuity. And I learned that, you know, in city government and federal government, everything, you know, there was a continuity of operations and all this stuff going on all the time. It was constantly updated in case there was something that needed to be done. So to not utilize information we already have locally to establish something on the municipal side can be done, I think. I mean, that's a great place to start and make it an easy beginning to do that.
I guess that, as most people know, I could, Ed didn't
Let's hear
answer
from
this
Ed
yet?
before we move on to the next one.
All right, go ahead.
Thanks.
Sorry, Ed.
It's okay. Once again, it goes back to the comp plan. Look at the comp plan, pull it apart, see what pieces in there need to be updated, and most definitely, it's something that needs to be done. You're on the right track, Dennis. There's a lot of things that should be updated, and that definitely is one of them, and to get the plan going and put a committee on it and make sure that we look at the school and we look at the fire department and see what their plan is and try to use those as mirrors, so.
Most people know that I could just do this all night. And Jeanette's sitting there saying, yeah, we dealt with this school board. That's why I waited till nearly everybody else spoke, so that everybody didn't fall asleep.
Well, we do have the school board to go to, so.
Yeah, so I'll leave that end of my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
This is sort of directed to Ed, but maybe the other folks as well. Back in prehistory, when I was a selectman as well, every week when we signed the warrant, which is the bills that come due, and the selectmen approve them every week, we had an appropriation control report that broke down all the departments in the town and how much had been appropriated for each line that they were expending. And before we signed anything, we made sure there was enough money, but it also gave a year-to-date percentage of how much of that appropriation had been expended. And it just sort of, you know, boggles my mind that if you're looking at that, you didn't realize how much of these funds had yet to be expended at the end of the year, and that perhaps when you're figuring your tax rate, you know, you would have excess funds to bring forward, or that some of these lines were being over budgeted. And I wondered, Ed, if you found that as a useful tool, and perhaps if the other two candidates think this would be a useful tool as well.
All right, since you directed, we'll start with Ed.
Yes, I do remember seeing that in the past, and yes, it is definitely a useful tool. Where I work right now, I get a monthly update from our finance director. It says exactly what I have in my budget, and I look down through that and make darn sure that I'm not going over on anything, or at the end of the year, you know exactly what you're under on. It's a tool that the select board definitely needs to have. If a department comes to you and says, we need, you know, $40,000 for repairing XYZ, you've got that document in front of you that says, okay, the department needs $40,000. You've only got $35,000 to spend. Or you have $100,000 in there and you're doing okay. The board needs to know exactly where the departments are at any given time, and especially when you're signing the warrant, because the last thing you want to do is sign a warrant that doesn't have the money in that line to back it up, because ultimately it falls on the selectmen's shoulders. The department head may take the hit, but the selectmen are the ones that are on the final end of that when it comes down to it. Yeah, definitely, it's a good document to have.
Daniel?
I think it's a very good document. I mean, when I was at the University of Maine, I served as my class president as well as on the student senate, and those were both seen as bodies with funds that they expended, or they gave out to student groups or organizations that needed the support. And every week, we had a report that told us how much was being requested, how much was given, how much was expended, and how much was put back in certain funds. It was important for those of us who were giving out the funds, but also for anyone who attended those meetings, for people to see what was happening with their money, what was being done. I think it comes to transparency and preventing stuff like what's happened to the budget from happening again. So I think it's a very necessary tool. I'm honestly surprised that we don't continue to do that to this day.
Phil?
We saw this during budget and warrant and finance, and it is a good tool, because what we see in that data, as you point out, is, and this is how you see who's budgeting too much on a yearly basis, and that shows up as percentage of funds utilized. Like here we are, the fiscal year is coming right up, and you'll still see some departments, line items that are at 60% utilized. And that's an ongoing thing that's very easy to find in the data. It's a pattern that develops, and there are those patterns. So that tool is obviously a good thing, because otherwise you wouldn't be aware of it. And that's probably a big aspect of, well, it is a big aspect of how we got where we are with this overage. And I do think that the money that's on that article for what the selectmen are asking about is hiring that accounting firm, which I do believe we're in desperate need of, at least to get a baseline. I don't know if the contract's going to be an annual one or whatever, but if you hire them for 1 year and you're not happy with them, so be it. But at least if we do that, we'll have a baseline to start from, which some of that will be pointed out, and that will be the things you brought up. Otherwise, nothing's going to change. So it's very useful.
Any more? Last call? All right, if we have no more questions, we will move into closing statements from the Select Board candidates. And we are actually back at the top of our sequence. So, Phil, you get to go first.
Well, if you're as tired as I am, I'll make it quick, so.
3 minutes.
It'll be quicker than that, I think. I'm not a political person. If you know me, you know that. The only agenda I have, and I've been a public servant in many, like I said, many different circumstances, so I know what that means, is to listen to the concerns you have, deal with them honestly, bring them forward, and do something about them, or at least have that discussion with the other select board members and see what we can do with those concerns. And there's going to be many of them, I have no doubt. So I'm not a political person at all in that sense, and I understand you're probably saying, well, you're here trying to be elected. Well, yes, but that's the only aspect of this that I see as political, and even that to me is not really. The townspeople are selecting who's going to execute what they decide they need done. The only thing to me, this position, when I look at the duties, there's absolutely no political aspect of that whatsoever, and there should not be. And as Daniel and Ed have pointed out, the only purpose you're here is to deal with what the people need done, listen to what they have to say, and you're representing them, and only in the sense that you're executing what they decide they want done. So there is absolutely no politics, as it were, involved, or personal agendas, because that's going to dilute what you're trying to do, which is serve the people who put you there. And I have no doubt, I know myself and my history and every position I've ever had. Communications is huge. Like I said, I believe it solves many problems before they occur. I'm not afraid to speak my mind. I usually will listen for quite a while before I say anything, as Dennis probably knows, and listen to other people first before I make a decision, and I've already explained how I do that. I don't dilly-dally, as it were. I make decisions pretty quickly. I don't procrastinate, and I make things happen. because I don't procrastinate. And I do believe that the issues we have can be resolved and will be resolved, and I know with my experience and willingness to do this, otherwise I wouldn't be sitting here. And I appreciate the people that suggested I do this, which was a surprise, that I can do exactly what this position calls for and be of help to whoever's on the select board with my skills and experience I have. So I hope that you vote for me on June 13th, and thank you.
Daniel?
Tonight I've heard this role compared to serving in a corporation or business. If you know me and you've worked with me personally, you know that my approach is always people first. And that is the approach that our select people should approach serving on the select board as. I am somebody who is a passionate and avid learner. I know that it is always an opportunity for us to learn and grow. Tonight, you may have noticed me writing things down. Not only was I writing comments, but I was writing the things that you folks said. Things that were important to you that I may not have thought about, things that I can look at and think about, because it is important to listen. As an advocate at Caring Unlimited, one of the most important skills that we go through in our training process is advocacy, and that is through listening and clearly hearing what those we're working with, what they're saying and what they need and what we can do to best serve them. I think I've shown that I have a willingness and a passion to grow and to learn, to serve people first. I think I'm also offer a different perspective and a different voice. This past election, you voted to expand the board to 5 people, which is why we have 2 seats open. I think there's a reason why you voted to expand the board from 3 people to 5, because you wanted different opinions, different perspectives, different and creative solutions to the problems that we are facing that we haven't seen yet. I know that I am one of those voices. I represent, I think, a different demographic. I consider myself a visionary, but I also, as a history major at the University of Maine, I respect history. I think the best way for our town to succeed and to grow is to respect the history, where we've come from, while marrying it with, visions of the future and things that we can do with technology, with increased communication, while always keeping you, the people, at the focus of what we do. So on June 13th, I am asking you to please consider voting for me to serve and represent you on the select board.
Thank you. Ed?
I also am not a very political person. Anyone that knows me knows it takes quite a bit for me to get up here and talk about myself. It's the one thing I don't like to do. You ask me a question, I'll give you an honest answer. 6 months from now, you ask me the same question, you're going to get the same honest answer. The one thing I've learned in the past 9 years that I was on the board, I've learned a lot of things to do. I've also learned a lot of things not to do. And moving forward, if I'm fortunate enough to be reelected to the board again, there's a number of things that I'd like to see changed. I've stressed tonight that one of the things is the relationship between the Warrant and Finance and the Board of Selectmen. That needs to improve, and it's just something that needs to happen, and something I would work to make happen. Once again, I'm only going to be one voice on what's coming up to be a 4-person board. Next year it'll be a 5-person board, but I think I'm a pretty strong voice to get my point across and to be honest and to try to move forward. I'll say, once again, I have a hard time saying vote for me. Vote for the person you feel will do the best job. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, folks, we have actually been here for just over 2 hours. So before we dive into the school board, do people want to take a break and stretch? No, dive right on. All right, okay.
That was easy.
All right, we will then move directly into the school board. We'll use the same format. We'll start alphabetically. We will start with 5 minutes for opening statements from each candidate, going in alphabetical order. So Crystal, if you could pull the microphone up, you're first.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. For those who don't know me, I'm Crystal Andrews. I moved to Acton about 6 years ago. Moved in with my stepfather, Glenn Howland. He used to live on 7th Street for many years, and my mom, Christine. My son, Russell, he is in 1st grade this year, going into 2nd grade next year. I'm on the Acton Rec Board. In my spare time, I do volunteering and fundraising. Myself and Samantha just pulled off an adult prom fundraiser. We raised just shy over $38,000 for Grammy Rose, and the money went directly to them. We do the annual Acton Craft Fair as well. The last 2 years, we donated that to the library. They actually bought 2 new computers with that money. So I'm always in town, and I always go to assemblies on Fridays, and I try to help out the school whenever I can. If they need sleds for the kids to go sledding, I'm always on Facebook asking, who wants to donate sleds, and I actually got over $200 donated to the school for the Scholastic Book Fair, so the kids that couldn't actually afford a book, so they can all buy a book, and that money was all used already. So I just try to help out, and first and foremost, it's about the kids, and whoever is going to be the best candidate to help the kids out and the staff. And I feel like, being a single mom, I can relate to a lot of the parents there, and they confide in me in some of the problems and the issues, and I just feel like we need our generation to have a voice, and I'm just trying to give them a voice and help out the school the best I can.
All right, thank you. And we'll go on to Jeanette.
Yep, Jeanette Burris. I've been on the school committee for 20 years. I'm looking for re-election for the next 3 years, please. I moved to Acton at First Shapley 42 years ago. I can't believe I've been here that long. I was an EMT on the Shapley Fire Department, also in the Acton Fire Department. I worked at the 2 nursing homes in Sanford for years. Sanford Mainstay, I don't know if anybody remembers that. Now it's across the street from Napa. Sweetsa, which was Sanford Healthcare. And I worked at the hospital for many years in different capacities. Also was a school bus driver for 20 years. What else did I do? Oh my goodness, let's see. Been on the planning board in Acton, on the policy committee for now. I'm a strong supporter of the Acton School and the teachers. We have a great group there, a good superintendent. All the students that attended the Acton School do very well moving on to the high school, the Sanford Regional Technical High School. As a matter of fact, I think every year they have, 3 graduate out of the top 10, and at least 10 out of the top 50, or at least 1,100 children that go to the Sanford School. Yeah, so that's pretty good. They were talking about the warrant. Judy and I signed the warrant. Every month in the packet with the school committee meeting comes everything broken down, what's left in the budget the next time around for the next month for which we sign. And with each check that goes, there's an explanation. Every single thing is accounted for. You turn the page and it's right there, every penny to penny. I don't know what else to say. The warrant and finance committee, we have our superintendent does an excellent job, as the warrant and finance committee knows, about the book that's passed out. All the warrant and finance committee members did show up this time, the past 2 years, which was very, very good. Everything went very smooth. We just did it the first time, and that was it with all the explanations. What else have we done? We had the sheriff has come and to outline perhaps they're having a lockdown at the school. The students have a place to go. They have, we have locks on all the classroom doors, radios in the room. The windows, the doors have this protective, shatterproof, well, it will shatter, but the bullets will not go through. I hate to say that, but the school has been well protected. Every year, money is turned back to the school. Last year, $500,000 was turned back to the town. Yeah, this year the budget was up, but the biggest part of the budget is transportation, salaries, insurance. As you look at the pie, almost very little goes to the students, but they're never for want. If anybody needs anything, it's always there. The backpack program, I donated to that for many years. The PTG, they're very helpful. Let's see, what else? Oh, one thing I really, really like to do. Drive the shoreline trolley in Wells. And they couldn't do it this year because I don't have enough CDL drivers. Where are you guys? Doesn't anybody have a CDL license? I mean, you know, that is a fun job. Oh my goodness, Betsy, that's got to be the most fun job I think I ever had as a second job. I've always had 2 jobs anyway, so. Okay, I think that's all on my list for now.
All right. Then we will move on to Judith.
All right, alphabetically last, and almost out of coffee, so. Well, I've lived in Acton since I was 4 years old. I actually grew up in the farm right across the street from the library. So, yeah, I'm kind of like a lifelong Acton person. My grandmother brought me up, and she was a teacher, so I had a lot of educational things going on from the time I was very small. I'm a retired educator. I taught for several years, 38 to be exact. My last 20 years I taught at Sanford High School, and I was privileged while I was there to be selected as Sanford's Teacher of the Year one year. After I got married, my husband and I had a chance to buy the farm down on Sanborn Road, where I live now, the Beals Farm, and so we brought our 4 children up here, and they all went through the Acton School, and then on to high school. I really have enjoyed being on the Acton School Committee. Particularly, I've enjoyed watching how they've grown academically, how the programs have developed, how the proficiency-based learning program went in, where every child can learn at their own rate. They can get moved up a grade if they need to. If they're excelling in something, they can go into a subject area up above that. If they need extra help, they have that. We have all kinds of things that will help the kids that need extra help. It's just been a pleasure to see how the school has developed over the years, and to be a part of that, and to be a part of making the Acton School an excellent little place that it is. So, I don't think I have too much else to say. I think everybody pretty much in town knows me. I don't think I have too many strangers.
All right, then. Then we will entertain questions for the school board candidates.
Wobbly from sitting for so long.
I gave you a chance for a break.
So this is actually, my name is CJ Gardner. I live on Milton Mills Road. This is my husband's question. He wrote it out earlier today, but one of us had to go home and put the kids to bed because it was more than an hour past their bedtime. So I'm going to read exactly what he wrote. My name is Matthew Gardner. We have 2 children at Acton Elementary. To me, leadership, teamwork, and continuity of process play an important role in getting everything done by the various deadlines throughout the year. Like all elected positions, the school committee plays an important role in our community. My question to the 3 of you is this: whether it be in continuation of your current position or in preparation for a new position, how many of the school committee meetings did each of you attend in the past year? Or if it's easier, how many did you miss?
Why don't we start with Crystal on that one?
So last year was my first year with my son attending. He was in kindergarten, and as we all know, we were going through COVID still. They had masks until March. Unfortunately, I haven't had an opportunity to attend any school committee meeting. We had some family health issues. My stepdad had a heart attack and was in the ICU in the Bahamas. So we were dealing with that, but I'm a big supporter of the school committee and what they've done so far, and I just like to get the opportunity to get in there and just make a difference for the kids.
Thank you. Jeanette?
I have never missed a school committee meeting. I think I was 2 minutes late once in 20 years. 20 years, never missed a meeting.
Judith?
I haven't missed any meetings.
Okay. Quick and easy. Next.
Mine won't be so quick and easy, sorry. Kelly Collins, Fox Ridge Road.
Can you pull the mic around so it's facing you? Thank you.
Sure, better. Children with special needs have special challenges in school and may find it difficult to interact socially, speak, and learn new things. For these children, it is important to the school to have a plan or protocol in place so that they enjoy the same educational opportunities that other students do. Acton Elementary School is a great school, absolutely, unless you're a non-normal child. My child is a neurodivergent child with special needs. I've had to bring in the Board of Education to have his IEP met. As school board members, how are you going to address the lack of special need programs at Acton Elementary so our children who have special needs can grow up in the same great town and have a great education?
Why don't we start with Jeanette on that one?
Well, I really don't think this is the place to answer questions like that. We're governed by a lot of rules and regulations and executive sessions. I don't honestly think that this is the place. If you've addressed it at other places, then we have, other means of doing that. Can't answer that question here.
Can you answer in generalities instead of specific? Because I agree, we obviously can't discuss a specific case. There's all kinds of confidentiality and privacy issues, but just as general policy.
Well, I believe that we have a special ed program, and if we need extra special ed techs, we do hire them. I can't get into specifics. I know there's a great program that goes on. It's all executive session, and have you ever been to a school committee meeting or asked for an executive session?
I have.
You've asked for an executive session?
I've been to a school committee meeting, yes.
No, we can't discuss that at an open school committee meeting.
Okay, we'll move on to Judith then.
Okay. I'm a strong believer that every single child deserves the best possible education they can get, regardless of their abilities or disabilities. As you know, as a parent, each child that has specific needs has an IEP, and for those of you who don't know what that is, that's an individualized educational plan. And that plan includes the type of learning environment that they should be in. It also includes any kind of special therapies that they should be receiving while they're in school. I know that at Acton School, as much as possible, we try, our school tries to keep children in the school in a normal school situation as much as possible. Sometimes there are disabilities that prevent that from happening, and when that happens, then our special ed department finds them the best possible placement out of school. I do know that as far as preschool goes, the Acton School Department, all school departments with preschool are not responsible for services for preschool kids because they still come under the Department of Child Services. So, but I do know that our special ed director does work with child development services to help try to accommodate whatever special needs any child might have. I know we've built changing tables. Oh.
30 seconds.
I'm over here.
10 seconds.
You need to move. I just, I understand, and I think parents need to advocate. Nobody has ever come to the school committee with any issues that I know of at all, that their needs weren't being met. If my child's needs weren't being met, I would say, I'd like to come to the school committee and talk to the school committee. Nobody has ever come to us.
Okay. And Crystal?
Obviously, being the new kid, I don't know about the school's policies and but I can only speak from my experience being a mother with a child that needs speech therapy at the school. The school's awesome. It's really amazing. I don't want to speak ill of the school, but that special education needs a whole revamp. My son, I was never told that he'd be taken out of the class. When he'd be taken out of the class, I get no reports. People saying, oh, I don't know about this meeting. It's a major communication breakdown. He's in a classroom with like 10 other kids, and I don't understand how he can get the specialized needs that he needs met. Like if he has a certain speech problem, how do you work with him on that when you're just grouping them all together? There's no communication, there's nothing. We need to work on keeping these kids in the school, making them feel included, and doing what we need to do, especially if we offer preschool, we need to be able to give them these services. And we just need to do better by our kids. And I know a lot of other parents that come to me because I run the Acton Caregiver Group on Facebook, and they feel comfortable talking to me about this. They have the same issues. One didn't know that her daughter had an IEP at all, and that she was being taken out for guidance every week. She didn't know until a year. So it needs a whole revamp, and we need more teachers to do that. Thank you.
Does anybody else have a question? Because I have one more.
Why don't you ask, and then, because if I assume it's on a related topic, so we might as well stay.
Yes, it is, okay. It actually is about a topic I see in a lot of towns. I mean, I was born and raised in Lebanon. My Aunt Louise Horn I came here quite a bit, being part of her, so she's taught me to be a very advocate. So if anybody knew my Aunt Louise Horn, you understand where I come from. So how would you work within the community to get more people, including those Acton residents who don't have school-age children, more involved and supportive of issues facing our schools?
Judith, why don't you start with that one?
Are you talking about older people?
Or it could be younger people too.
Younger people, okay.
Yeah.
And by the way, Louise Horn was my private nurse for my delivery of my three children, three of my children. I think really that the way the community has supported the school and supported the budget year after year, and come out for community events shows that there are many people in the community who don't have kids in school anymore, who appreciate what's happening at the Acton School and want to see our kids in Acton be well supported. I don't see that as really being a big issue. I haven't seen that since in the last few years since I've been on the school committee, because we've had great support at our meetings, and the only thing I can say as far as town meeting goes, because the town voted a few years ago, we had a consolidation law, and we got to be our own little donut hole, as they called it, which means that we don't have to combine with other, so we can make our own budgets and stuff. 139 votes for the school budget is not a very big number, for sure. However, I bet it's more than we would have had if we'd had an open town meeting for the school budget, because they just haven't been coming.
Okay, Crystal?
Yeah, definitely. When I saw Jim post on Facebook about the school budget and people coming out to vote, and then there was only like 24 people by noon, it was kind of, underwhelming, because they work so hard, tirelessly on the budget, and not to get that many people to come out was just a huge disappointment. I know Mr. Ross was out there, with whiskers, and getting the children and honking and making sure everybody knew, go vote, go vote. And posting it on Facebook and just being out there like he is to get more people involved, I think that'll help tremendously, because like you said, not a lot of people, the older generation's not on Facebook as much. So we need to come out with like a town newsletter or something just to get the word out, like the mass email or something, to get more people involved in the school system and come support our kids and our teachers.
Well, 139 people to vote. I tried to break it all down. You got the number of children in the school, almost 300. And that wasn't the group that showed up to vote. There were more people not school-related that came to vote for that budget.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Sir?
So once again, my name is Wade Bartlett. And my question is for each of you, what do you see as the two biggest challenges schools are facing now? And what do you see as your role in addressing those challenges?
And Crystal, why don't you lead off on that one?
Basically, from what I've seen, is definitely communication breakdown within the different areas of the school. Like I was talking about, the special needs communication, and sometimes I know the teachers are really busy and they do an amazing job. It's just a lot of communication breakdown. That's one of the biggest challenges. And the school does a really great job of trying to get the parents involved, whether it be like the school assembly or anything like that. It's just, we just need revamp of certain stuff, and the times are changing, so we just need to go with the times, and that's what my role would hopefully help that and get my generation and all the parents that I talk to, just to get a voice and change some of the stuff.
Yep, things have changed. I can remember so many years ago, we had like 400 people show up at the fire department for town meeting, and the school budget was there, and we had food and all these things, and the town meeting was in March, and everybody complained because everybody was in Florida. They can't be at the town meeting. Then it was in June, and then it was Father's Day. Everybody has a reason why they can't be someplace. And like you say, there were 50 people that showed up at the town meeting last time. And as for the school, it's the same thing. We don't see anybody's different face at the school committee meeting. I don't know what you do to get them there. I don't know. And here's another thing now. You go in the front door, and there was a table there at the end of the year that was full of clothes that kids had left behind. You would not believe the amount of money. There had to be $100,000 worth of clothing on that table. And I could not figure out why no one went and chased those kids' clothing down. Shoes, pants. I mean, these jackets were $250. Where are these people that even care to go to find out where their kids' clothes are?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Judith?
I actually think that the school has a great communication program. They send out emails, they send out phone alerts, they send out all kinds of things like that for everything that's going on. But getting back to your question, I think one of the things, sadly, that we're having to address these days mostly is safety, is school safety. It's sad to think that here in the little town of Acton, we have to worry about what happens in some other schools around the country. But we have addressed this and taken it very seriously. This year, we have, as Jeanette had mentioned, we have had special coverings put on all of our entry doors. You know, you have to get buzzed in to come in. We also have a new program that our staff is being trained in right now. It's called Alice. I can't tell you what each of those letters stands for, but we have a policeman from Sanford that has put this program in place in Sanford, and it's been working very well. And he has come up and he's been training all of our teachers, and they've gone through a lot of processes. And we have things lined up, like where the kids should go and things like that. And we've also received special radios so that each teacher, each classroom now has a special radio that is only for emergencies. So I think safety is probably one of the biggest issues that we're having to deal with. I think some of the other issues that other schools have dealt with a lot of influx of people with a different language, I think we haven't had to deal with that so much here in Acton now. So, but I think safety is one of the things.
Hello, my name is Beth Breton. I live on Loon Pond, East Shore Drive. My question is, just to back up what a few other people said about the special needs department. My daughter was a full-time college student. I pretty much took the primary care of my grandson through school. And I didn't receive several emails on what was going on with what we had spoken to. And I was really confused why nobody would follow up. And then when we went to the teacher for follow-up, she had no idea what we were talking about after we had already had that conversation. That personally happened to me. That was not somebody's story, that was my story. Secondly, I think you guys are doing amazing. I could never run for this board. But what I'm really upset also that only 139 people came to this. I didn't go, so I'm part of the cause. But I think that, what is your idea of getting people in? There has to be a new idea. And I'm not saying that we need young blood here, but we might. We need young ideas. And I think that, you know, I'm a grandmother. I don't have all those young ideas, but I think we need more people of our children's, our grandchildren's age group to be more involved, not the older people of town. Of course, they have to be involved also, but we really need to see a younger group in, and I want to know how these people are going to be brought in. And I know it's difficult. I know you guys to just explain some of that, but there's got to be ways to update reasons for people to come in. That was my questions.
Jeanette?
Yeah, well, you know, you can only make people do what they want to do. If the younger people in their 30s and 40s don't want to go to school committee meetings or run for the school committee, I mean, look at us. We've been there for a long time, and the rest of them have been there a long time. Nobody seems interested in doing anything. I can't help that.
Okay. Judith?
I was just waving to a couple of our younger school committee members in the back.
Oh, okay.
That's
all right.
That's right. And that's good.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't have any bright ideas for what else we can do. All of the notices go out through the school system. They go to emails to all the parents. They go to their phones, so they get notices that way. We post it on Facebook. We put it in the Reporter. We do everything that we can think of to try to let people know that there's a vote coming up, or there's a meeting coming up, or there's a hearing coming up, or something like that. We did have a few more people at our public hearing this year than we've had in the past for our budget, but yeah, if anybody has any magical tools to send our way as to how we can do that, because our superintendent principal is a super advocate for working with the parents. The PTG works very hard, too. They also try to round up support and when anything is coming up, and do a fabulous job just supporting the school and the staff in general. So, I don't have the magic tool for that. I wish I did. I would have used it a long time ago, many times over.
All right, Crystal, I think you're one of the people that she's looking for.
Yeah. So I can't really speak to the older generation. I just know my generation. I'm 39, and I was brought up MySpace, Facebook, and that's how we got the word out. Just by doing Facebook alone, myself and Samantha sold 300 tickets to the prom in like a month. So we got to get the younger generation on board, and the Facebook is the way to go. And like me, you gotta have childcare maybe at some of these meetings. I'm a single mom. If I need to go out to a meeting and do something, I have to work around my mom's schedule to watch my son, or a friend, to watch him, and it's difficult. So we gotta come up with ways that we can have childcare, we can do it earlier, not at 7 o'clock at night, because it's like past everybody's bedtime and the kids are already sleeping, so it's hard to do that. And we just gotta get out there and talk to the people. And like Mr. Ross is out there, go to the vote. And I'm out there every single day at school pickup, just talking to parents, about, hey, you going to this, you going to that. At assembly, I'm talking to parents. You just gotta get out there and you gotta talk, maybe have coffee, breakfast, and just, hey, this is going on, put it in your calendar right now. That's the only way that they're gonna remember. And I just ignore half of the messages from the school, unfortunately, because it comes all at once. So maybe a better way to do it is Facebook or something like that.
There we go.
This will be really quick. As we all know, the federal government has stuck their nose in what happens in our schools, and quite often it isn't for the best. And I'm going representing the children of the school with this question. The federal government wants to stop chocolate milk in school. Would you guys support that?
No. We tried to do it last time. We're going to drink chocolate milk.
Judith?
No.
And Crystal?
I'd actually, my son, he brings lunch to school, but the one thing he always gets is chocolate milk. So I would have a very upset boy. The one thing I'd like to stop is the cranberry bites, because I looked at the sugar of that, 24 grams of sugar, of added sugar in the cranberry bites.
I just wanted to make sure.
No, we're not stopping that.
Regardless of who gets elected, I will hold you all three to your word. Kids still have chocolate.
Yes, they tried to do that a while ago, but we ignored them.
Yeah. Yes. My son will be very unhappy.
Ray Lopez, Buzzell Road. I know a couple of you ladies didn't want to see me up here. You tell me I asked some pretty hard questions. I have no children that have gone to the Acton School. My concern when I got involved is how was my money being spent, okay? So I did start showing up at some of these meetings, and I was amazed at how the money is used at the school. The special programs, the special needs, the security, everything is in the works. And as we know, as it go along, things are added on to make things better. I don't know about the personal concerns of people that, you know, have children with special needs, but I know that the program that they do have, and when what they presented at the budget was amazing. My question, or my major concern, is the children also. In today's day and time, it seems to me that children are not being allowed to be children. They are being given books, they are being given sometimes classes that have to deal with subject matter that should not be presented to children. I'm a pretty blunt person, so I would have to say the whole situation of trying to have a child come to school and, oh, you feel like a boy today, you can dress as a boy. You feel like a girl today, you can dress as a girl, or you can do whatever you want, and the parents don't have to be told. Not necessarily at Acton, but it's coming. Okay? My question is, what types of books are in the library that the children have access to? And I hope I hear this in the news, where a child goes in, they get a book about Jimmy Dayton John, and the librarian asks them, oh, do you want to see the graphic book to that? Children are not being allowed to be children. They are being pushed forward, and I want to know, do you guys have any of these books in your library? And if you don't, would you allow these books in your library?
Judith, do you mind going first?
No, I don't mind. I honestly don't know if we have those books in our library or not. And this has not been an issue that's come up at the school, so it's something that the board wouldn't have had any input on or had to do anything with. I think you need to remember that the school board doesn't really run the school, okay? The school board they make policies, they support the school, they do the budgetary process. Everything that we do comes down from the Maine State Education Department. And we work with our staff, with our administrative staff, to face any issues that come up. So anything that comes up as an issue or would appear to be a problem, the administration will bring it to us. We haven't had any of that brought to us, and so I have not looked to see what was in the library. I honestly don't know if there are any books there that anybody would object to or not, because I haven't looked.
Okay. Crystal?
Okay. I don't know what type of books are in the library. I've been in there a bunch of times for Scholastic Book Fair and stuff like that. I think, at my personal opinion, it doesn't matter really, but, because like she said, the school board isn't on that, but at their young age, just from my personal opinion, I don't really think my son should be reading that at this age. He's 6, but maybe in the middle school age, that'd be more appropriate. I just can't speak for everybody, and every single parent is gonna have a different opinion on it. I'm not saying who's right and who's wrong, it's just from my perspective. That age is a little too young to get into that, but maybe older.
Well, if there is a problem, or has been a problem, I haven't heard about it, and no one showed up at the school committee meeting, and we haven't had any meetings about such books. Are they out there? Probably. I'm not for it. These kids grow up too fast. I think when they get to be 18 and 21, that's the time people should make up their minds about what they want to do. But that's my opinion.
Censorship is a very slippery slope, so I'm not in favor of that. And although I think what Ray was trying to get to, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, is he's against grooming, and that would be an issue, in my opinion. My question, though, is, from listening to the discussion between both Jeanette and Judith, is you do push notifications to cell phones, text messages?
Yes.
For notifications?
Yes.
Do you also do push notifications when a meeting or something is canceled?
Yes.
Or only when it's scheduled?
I believe they go out both ways. I would have to check with Amanda to be sure, because she does that at the school, but she does push notifications for our meetings, for no school days, like a snow day, or anything that's coming up, or even something special like if testing is going to be going on, to remind the parents that there's going to be testing going on, so that they can.
Is it just a 1 or 2 line text messages, or does it go into a little bit of granularity to where people will really be able to make a decision whether or not they're going to go to a meeting?
I think it varies.
It varies, okay.
Yeah.
I don't have children in the Acton School, never will, I don't think anyway. But the one thing that I was really impressed with after being on Warrant and Finance was doing the research and finding out where students rate. And I think I said that at your hearing, is you rate very high in the state and even in this area. And you should take that as a credit for, I know you guys don't get involved in instruction, but you support this faculty, and so that's important. And that'll be something that Crystal may have to do. Thank you. I was just wondering, regarding push notifications, something for the potential Board of Selectmen to think about is, why is it that the town doesn't do that?
Right.
Because for me, I don't do Facebook, I'm not a product. That's what you are when you're on Facebook. So, and I don't do email very often, although some people would like me to do it more often. Or go online, I don't watch TV, I'm a bit of a hermit. So push notification, everyone uses a different media, and that's something that you do that, I tip my hat to.
Charlie, have you considered smoke signals or something?
You know, when the weather's right, yes.
Hi, I'm Kate Nolan Denham from Route 109, and my question is for all of you. Judith, you touched on this a little bit, but for all of you, what is your understanding of what the role of the school committee is, and what do you feel your personal role is?
Crystal, why don't you lead off on that one?
Okay. So I've never actually been on the school committee. Like I said, my son Russell just started in the school system last year in kindergarten, and that was during COVID, so that was a very crazy time for everybody. I would like to see positive change on the school committee and just helping implement the policies that come down from the state. And basically, I see myself in that role of just helping the school and building a better place for the kids, the staff, and the teachers, and obviously the school bus drivers. We gotta take care of them. So I just see myself being a positive change in that system.
Well, the schools are governed by the Maine law, Maine law, that's who governs the schools. Has nothing to do with the town. We run under the Maine law and statutes, and they are different sometimes than the towns. So, that's what we abide by. Now, we can't change anything. We can suggest things, but like the policies, 99% of the policies come from the federal government or the state. The school does make up some in case something comes along and we need to change something. But other than that, I don't know what the school committee can actually change.
Judith?
The school committee does play a big role in approving special new programs and special new curriculums that come in. In the last couple of years, we've added a couple of programs in both reading and in math, which have proven to be very, very beneficial, and we've seen scores come up with the Jolly Phonics program that we have in the iReady program for reading, and we're extending that now up from the lower grades into the upper grades for next year with the math part. We basically act as a guidance to the superintendent, to the administrative staff. The policies, that's a given. Every school has to have the policies. The state tells us what some of them are and what most of them are. And keeping them updated is a pretty busy task. Jeanette's on the policy committee. You know, we deal with anything that comes up that's, that the superintendent or any of the administration bring to our attention at a meeting. Other than that, you know, we just need to make sure that, you know, the finances we get good financial statements every month. It tells us where we are, how much we've spent, how much is left in each account, and so forth. So we have to make sure that we have eyes on all of that and on our staff, and make sure that, you know, things are going well with the staff itself. And that's really what our role is. We're a board that the superintendent reports to and brings to us anything that needs our attention.
Anybody else?
Okay.
Did you want to add?
Well, I was just going to say, now, end of school, there's a lot of activities. The bouncy house, they're going on canoe trips, they're going to Canterbury Lake Park, where they go, they're going camping. All this stuff is built in the budget. Different grades have different places to go. I didn't realize a bouncy house cost so much to rent.
Hi, ladies. I'm Sue Walsh, live over in San Pedro Road. You kind of already answered my question, but I just wanted to share. 9 years ago, I came before this committee with the Read Dog program. My little dog and I, Olivia, go into school. We sit and the children read to us. It was a whole big new concept. The committee at the time was very open to hear what I had to offer, accepted me with open arms. So I was just going to say, when new alternative different programs come up before that, are you open to at least hear what they're all about and take a chance on them, like you did with us?
Of course.
Judith?
The dogs like to read.
She's very clever.
Yes, and you know, if people would come to some of the school committee meetings, they would find out some of these special things that are happening within our school. It's not just like going to school every day. There are special things that are happening there every day, and the reading program is one of those, where the kids will actually sit down and read to the dog, and the dog enjoys the stories. Yes, more than one, it's plural dogs. So definitely, we're always looking for anything that's going to enhance whatever the kids are doing for the day or for the year.
Well, it's very exciting when the children run in and said, I went to the library and I picked this book because I thought Livy would like to hear.
Absolutely.
And this is a child that wasn't particularly crazy about reading at the beginning of the year, and now is looking for a book for Livy, so.
Crystal?
Thank you for that.
My son Russell was actually picked to read to your dog, Sue.
Yes.
And oh my gosh, he was so excited about that. He wasn't very enthusiastic at the beginning of the year to read, but he came home with her card and said, I got to read the dog today. And it was definitely, I'm a big advocate for new programs like that.
I did not see myself up here tonight. I just didn't, but something came up, and I need to ask you, Crystal. Sure. As you know, I love the kids here at Acton. I worked at Acton. I was a special ed tech there for many years before going back to become a full-fledged grown-up teacher. So I have a love for the special ed department especially, and know the good work that happens there. Now, I noticed, Crystal, you're not happy with it, and you think it needs to be revamped. And I would love to know what your plan would be for that. Okay, thank you.
Well, like I talked before, my son is in speech, and as you may or may not know, there's a new speech therapist this year. So last year, it was just a confusion, and this year was a confusion as well. We had a meeting, and I was told specifically that I would get an email when they decided to pull my son out. He was having issues in the lunchroom with the loud noise, so he had to wear headphones, and he wasn't eating for 2 weeks straight, so we had to figure that out. So I did not want him pulled during lunchtime, because he was already having a hard enough time eating. So I was assured, by everybody, we'll email you, we'll let you know, and we'll definitely let you know what time we're gonna do it. None of that happened. I was really frustrated. I sent emails that went unresponded, and then I never got a progress report, and I was told one thing, that he would just need a little bit of help to get over that hump, which I took as a couple months, and now I'm told it's gonna be years, and we just need more communication. We need more special ed teachers, I believe, because he's in a room with a bunch of kids, and I don't understand how they can address his specific speech needs, because each kid has different speech needs, and I don't know how they can lump them all together, and I just see it. We need more resources for them. Sorry.
Can I have a follow-up question?
Sure.
Because I don't know how the school board works. Is that something that the school board is able to do, to just revamp a special ed department like that? Or what would be the steps, if you could help me out with that?
Our special ed director was once the assistant superintendent in Portland. She has an extensive background. She's retired from that, and she's taken this as a part-time job. So she has excellent qualifications, and in my opinion, she does a great job. If something comes up that needs to be addressed, and people, parents, whatever, aren't happy with what they get from the school, they can always ask to come and talk to the school committee. We've had no requests to come and talk to the school committee. We've had no parents come to the school committee about any issues. So if we don't know anything about it, we can't do anything about it. And if we do know, if they do come to us, we would still, rely on our specialists, because our special ed director certainly knows a lot more about what she's doing than we do. But we would be happy to try to make some connections and address that by working together with the parent and the special ed director. But it has to be, we have to know about it in order to do anything about it. And we haven't had any requests from any parents, so.
Jeanette, did you have anything to
I
add?
was just going to say, and if needed, the special ed director requested the superintendent, even in the middle of the school year, we need another special ed tech, and we hire them. We haven't had any of that, so I don't know. I can't address that. I have no idea what.
Okay, Crystal, do you have anything you want to add?
I'm not sure where the breakdown is on that. I know a lot of parents that I know have the issues as well with the special eds. I'm not sure if they know to go to the school committee, if there's a breakdown in communication. I didn't go personally because I have a meeting with them this week, so I feel like that can be taken care of then. But definitely I would have brought it up to the school committee as the next step. I just tried to give them an opportunity to go over what's going on with my son first before make it a larger issue.
But even at that time, the school committee cannot make a vote one way or the other. We can listen to see what you have to say, but it's ultimately not, you certainly wouldn't vote on anything like that.
Let's move on.
Okay.
Not quite yet. It's another question related. So if a family has a special needs concern, from what I'm hearing is we could bring that concern up to the school board for possible intervention or some kind of assistance in.
If a family has a special, if somebody's unhappy with what's happening with administration, they can ask to be put on the school committee meeting agenda. And then the school committee will get a little bit of information, a little bit of background information on what it's about. And then we can ask if the parent wants to come. If it's a personal thing, it would have to be done in executive session, because we don't talk about any specific students or anything like that in a public meeting because of, the Privacy Act. But parents can certainly ask to come to be put on an executive session, and then this whoever on the administration that they're having a problem with would also be asked to come to that meeting, so we can hear all the points of view and try to see what's actually going on, make a decision as a board.
Okay. Thank you.
Jeanette, did you have anything to add?
Comment.
Crystal? Okay.
I have a question. Are we allowed to ask?
Yeah, of course. You've got a microphone, you can ask them right there, just use the mic.
Am I cutting?
Ladies first.
Okay, thank you. Carol Long, I just, sitting there listening to all these questions about, and statements about special education, kind of breaks my heart. And I feel like, having navigated that system with both my daughter and my granddaughter over the years, I feel like there's a lot of lack of understanding, I guess. And my question is, there's a chain, like, if you have a problem with the special ed teacher, you go to the special ed director. If you have a problem with the special ed director, you go to superintendent and then the school committee. And my understanding of it is that the school committee's responsibility is to make sure that the education laws are being followed for these special needs kids. My question is, clearly, as many people that have gotten I've had a fantastic experience with the special education system in Acton School, both 20 years ago and now. But I know my rights, I know how it's supposed to work. I have great communication with special education teachers, emails constantly. So I guess my question is, what would each of you do to make sure that these parents understand that there is a chain of command and what they're supposed to be doing when they're not happy? Is it something that they learn at their annual IEP meeting, that they get, a sheet saying, if you're unhappy, do X, Y, and Z, or what would you suggest? Because I'm very surprised by what I'm hearing.
Crystal, it's your turn to go first.
I can only speak from my experience, and as well as some of the parents that talk to me about their children as well. There needs to be more communication, first and foremost, from the special education teachers and what's going on with your kid. Because like I said, I use the example of my friend, her daughter had an IEP last year and she had no clue. And she was being pulled out for guidance. So she had no clue what was going on. I think it's just a breakdown in communication that the special ed teachers, we definitely need more of, and we can't just all lump all the kids into one classroom with all these different speech problems or whatever they may have. I don't like that idea of lumping them in together. There has to be, a meeting, it has to be communication, emails back and forth, and say, this is what you do. If you have an issue, follow this, follow that. And I don't see that happening on my end. I can't speak for everybody, but I don't see that happening on my end.
I really can't answer any of that question.
Okay.
As a parent, don't you sign off on an IEP?
I did. Can I answer?
Actually, let's not get into discussions.
okay.
Let's keep it.
Okay, it's my understanding that when an IEP is made out for any child that has a special need or needs any kind of special services, that they meet with the special ed director and they go over the IEP, what services the child needs, and what is going to be provided, and the parent signs off on that IEP, that they agree to that program, and that's the program that will be followed for their child.
Can I just?
No, I don't want to. It's not. This isn't a discussion. This is a campaign. So we gotta keep in the format. So Daniel, you said you had a question. These are really good questions, but this just isn't the right forum for that kind of discussion.
I'm passionate.
Hi, Daniel Norwood, Fox's Ridge Road. My question is that the environment in the school is ever evolving and ever changing. You think back, there's a time when students had to do bomb drills. We have safety procedures that we never imagined we'd have to do. We've had, changes around health and policies. So my question is, what are some needs that you think the school might face in the future that might need to be thought about to be addressed? What is one area that you think the school could grow in, or that they should think about would be a need for students in the future?
Jeanette, why don't you lead on that one?
Well, every year we look at the curriculum, and the students so far are doing very well. They have different programs. And then we have the maintenance of the school. We have a new roof we're looking at. There's a boiler that we had to replace and replace too. I mean, it's an evolving thing of money that goes to a lot of places, not necessarily to the students. But everybody has books. Everybody that needs anything, a backpack or whatever they need, those children get it from the school, through the school. So I don't know any child that would want anything or need anything that they cannot get from the school.
Can I clarify? I guess my question...
Let's let everybody respond before we do a follow-up.
Or is this a clarification? I'm not talking about specific items.
Let everybody respond, and then we can do a follow-up if you want. Judith?
I'll go back to the thing that I mentioned before. I think the safety issues are something that we've really been very concerned about. And we want our kids to feel safe, we want our staff to feel safe, and we want to have a plan in place. We do have a plan in place where if anything happened, that they know what to they know what to do. They know the level of security that they need. They know if they need to leave the building. If they leave the building, then they get picked up and brought out of the area there. And it's all a coordination with the fire department and, all those things. There's a lot of things that we're putting in place now that we probably wouldn't have thought about 10 years ago because of so many school shootings and things going on. So I think protecting our students, helping them feel safe, helping them feel valued, helping them feel that they're an important part of the whole picture, each child. I think those are the things that we need to keep working on.
Crystal?
Definitely, I want to touch on what Judith said about safety. When I was in high school, we had a lot of bomb threats, unfortunately, but we want to do it so they're not scared of going to school, especially at this age, since we have a lot of younger kids in the school. We want to do it to make sure they know what to do, but do it so they're not afraid of going to school. And definitely I like to see some of the programs come back that when in my day we had like sewing or we had like wood shop. I know we don't have a big school enough to do that, but some of the home economics stuff, like I would love to see that come back, and just offering different classes, like outside classrooms and stuff like that. I like to see that, and just not one mold fits all.
Thank you. I just want to also say thank you to all three of you for running. I mean, it takes a commitment and, openness to be willing to run, and having a niece and nephew. It's important to have people work on the school. So thank you all for running.
You're welcome.
had to stop and think of how I was gonna phrase this question. No, it's a relatively easy one. In going to the committee meetings, school board committee meetings, I see at the beginning of your meetings, you have a spot for public comment. A lot of it, from that aspect, when I first started going, I was like, well, I don't know what I'm gonna comment about if I'm just starting to come to these meetings. Would you as a committee be open to put the public comments towards the end of your meeting? Although you have never restricted anyone from speaking when a subject matter is being discussed. But I'm just trying to make that suggestion or ask that question.
It's just booked in there, but people speak anytime they want. They raise their hand and they're addressed. I mean, we've never stopped anyone from having anything to speak. Ray, right?
But when I first started going there.
I know you were reading the format, I know, but.
Judith?
We do have public speaking at public input at the beginning of the meeting, but we're also, excuse me, we're also very open to, if people want to raise their hand during the meeting, we address them, and so we try to keep the communication going back and forth even in the midst of our meeting. So we could put it at the end, but since we kind of have it all the way through, I don't think it's really necessary. I'll bring it up, though.
Some people want to leave. I mean, they want to say what they want to say, and then they leave, so.
Crystal?
Whatever makes most sense for the meeting flow, I think, whatever makes most sense.
Any other questions?
Can I ask one more?
Sure.
I'm going off the public comment. I attended a couple of the Noble School Board meetings, and they had been talking about other ways to get public comment. I know they're pursuing an option of having like drop-off boxes for people to add public comment. What are some other ways that you think you could get people who maybe cannot attend those meetings, but to get their public comment to the school board?
Judith, why don't you lead off?
I think if anybody wants anything, they could certainly contact any member of the school committee or Mr. Ross and say they'd like, something to be addressed. I think we're pretty open to things like that. If something comes up and they have questions about it and want it addressed, that shouldn't be a problem.
Crystal?
I'm gonna go back to my Facebook thing. 'Cause a lot of my generation, that's what we do. It's Facebook. I think maybe having a Facebook page and they can send a message and somebody can see that and it'll be there for the meeting. That's my thought.
But they do send out notices. I'm not a Facebook person.
Right.
But I read the bulletins that come from the school, and there's always something there, a weekly report. And if there's a change in a date, we had a change in a date in March at some time for a different scheduling. I read that. That came from the superintendent. It's all there,
Okay. Any more questions? Last chance before we go into closing comments. All right, then we will give each candidate 3 minutes for closing comments. And Crystal, you're at the top of the list now.
I just want to thank everybody for coming out. I know it's late and I appreciate that, especially parents that have kiddos that are past their bedtime and one parent at home. Like I said, I'm the new kid here running for school committee, and I just feel like my generation needs more voice, needs to be heard, and I think I could be a positive change and influence in the school committee. And first and foremost, it's about the kids, and we gotta do everything we can for the kids, the school, the staff, and everybody else. Thank you.
Thank you, Crystal.
I think we have a well-oiled machine at the school. Would like it to continue that way. Re-elect me.
That's concise. That's concise. Judith.
Had to follow her, I find being on the school board very rewarding. Rewarding in that it's great to see the growth within the school, within the programs. It's great to see the successes that the kids are having. Our latest scores that just came in were up in both reading and math at every single grade level that took the tests. We're very fortunate to have Mr. Ross, who is a very good administrator. He's a people person. Anybody can go in and talk to him at any time. And it's why I wanted to stay on the school committee a little bit longer, so that I can continue to see what's happening there, because any decision that we make as a school board, the first thing that we always say is, you know, what is going to be in the best interest of the kids? Not what's going to be in the best interest of the staff, or what's going to be in the best interest of the community, but what's going to be in the best interest of the kids, because that's why we serve on the school committee. To make sure that our kids are getting a good education, to make sure that they're feeling like they're a part of a special community. And they are. Acton School, Elementary School is a community. It's a close-knit community. We're very fortunate to still be able to have a little school like that, where the kids can go from pre-K to grade 8. By the time they get to grade 8, the teachers know them because they've come up through the grades, and it's a great experience for them, and I'm proud to be a part of that, and I'd like to continue that again.
Thank you. Thank you to all the candidates for coming out tonight. And thank you to everyone who came out and persevered. It's been a long meeting. Thank you for coming. Thank you for participating.
Yes, same here.
And this video should be up on the town website later this week, so spread the word. There's been a lot of discussion about outreach. This is when we can do outreach. And thank you all so much for coming. Have a great evening.